Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I continue my series on the species of AD&D 2nd Edition Spelljammer by talking about the Dracon. The Dracon are a sort of centauroid species, but also a sort of draconic species at the same time. They're basically dragon centaurs, just without wings. They also have their own interesting outlook on the other species, especially humans, elves, dwarves, etc. But it's not negative per se, it's just different. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about the big scalies on many a person's ship, the Dracon. The upper body of a Dracon is humanoid, with their hands ending in claws, with fairly long foreclaws on their thumbs. They can actually use the thumb claws as weapons, doing 1d4 damage. And if they don't have a weapon, they have special ability to attack with both thumb claws in the same round. But their heads are very much the long shape and all that you would expect of a dragon. Their lower bodies are muscular, sort of like a horse combined with an elephant, but they have a long, lashing, draconic-like tail. Now, that's the overall gist of what they look like. Their scales tend towards gray, or grays and browns and other earthy tones. Their home world, though no one knows where it is, they've described it, is a arid world with deserts, dry grassy plains, and shallow seas. Because of this world, the climate never really induced them to settle in any one place, and it kept them nomadic. And this is sort of the cornerstone upon their culture. As they went into space, they adapted many of the tendencies of a nomadic people. So they have a very rigid set of social interactions between other Dracons, even those in their own kin group, in their own little clan. And these formalities are slow. Dracon tend to, when you have a group of them deliberating on something, because of the formalities, they take their time. When they make a decision, however, there is no hesitation in implementing it. They react quickly and with great zeal once they've made their decisions. Now, I mentioned in the intro that they have an odd view of the other species. Well, first off, they cannot tell the difference between a human, an elf, a dwarf, or a halfling. They literally just cannot tell the difference. Mind flayers, they can kind of tell are different, but they kind of just, if something has less than 6 limbs, 4 legs, 2 arms, they they have difficulty processing individuals among it. But beholders, they find absolutely comical. Probably until the beholders start zapping them with the eye rays, though. But they view any of the races that don't have 6 limbs as deformed. In fact, their word for them is, in their own language, is the deformed. And this is the sort of thing they have to look at. But the kin group is the absolute center of a Dracon's culture. Dracon look to the elders in their kin group for advice, for learning, everything. And a Dracon without a kin group is in a bad state. It's not that they can't function alone. It's that for a Dracon, being alone is so unbearable to them that they do not tolerate it well. The longer a Dracon is alone, the more depressed and despondent they will eventually become. Because of this, a lone Dracon might latch on to his traveling companions, not as friends and comrades in arms, but as family, adopting them as his kin group. And that's sort of what they really tend to do. But for the most part, you will not generally see lone Dracon. They will have either other Dracons around them, or they will have poor, confused humans and demi-humans and humanoids who are like, we don't know what's going on. He keeps calling us things that sound like family titles. We're confused, but he's a good fighter, or good cleric. Which, yes, the Dracon are only go into 2 classes: fighter or cleric. And that's kind of really all they need. And if you look at it, their society was built around nomadic travelers. So, with the way 2nd edition worked, I can kind of see the Dracon being only fighters or clerics. They were big, bulky, so they couldn't really be good thieves. And, again, because of the stealth aspects of it, they really wouldn't be very good rangers. And let's face it, one of the great flaws of 2nd edition D&D was that it pretty much said no other race had storytellers. Singers, minstrels, what have you. And so, until you got the very specific kits in the complete Book of Bards, only humans and half-elves and elves could be bards. Wait, no, sorry, it was only humans and half-elves could be bards. But that's sort of one of the great flaws, I felt, of 2nd edition. Just like only humans could be paladins. It was a very restrictive setting type thing. But the Dracon has some interesting mechanics about them. First, they got a +1 strength and a -1 dexterity. +1 strength because they were very powerfully built. -1 dexterity because their large bulk made them not the most agile beings. That strength, however, only applied to the strength of their upper humanoid body. Their lower body had its own lifting capacities. And these were much higher than many of the normal range of strengths would provide. Because of their size, though, they did take damage as if they were larger than man-sized creatures, which meant they took more damage whenever they were hit. But that's sort of the core of the Dracon. That they were sort of a interesting, novel sort of race. They didn't have any breath weapons or magical abilities, nor did they have any magical deficiencies. They could reach 14th level as a fighter or 12th level as a cleric. And a Dracon could carry up to 150 pounds in properly fitted containers and move at its normal speed. It could carry up to 300 pounds and move at 2/3 speed. And it could carry up to 450 pounds and move at 1/3 speed. Now, Dracon were faster than humans. They had a speed rating of 18, which meant they moved 18 feet in a round, versus the humans 12 feet in a round. And Dracons could carry up to 1,000 pounds. Sorry, could drag up to 1,000 pounds on a wheeled or greased bottom wagon type structure with a properly fitted harness, though at 1/3 speed. And that is pretty much the core of the Dracon. They were a novel species, and one that I wish we would see more like again. We don't really see things like them in newer editions of Dungeons & Dragons. If Spelljammer is done again, I hope that they will receive the proper place and a bit more info and story about them. Next week, I'm going to cut short the section talking about all the PC races, and I'm going to start talking about the NPC races. Talking about everyone's favorite villains in Spelljammer. The Neogi. So until next week, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.